My fruities, welcome to the broadcast. Pull up a throne, pour a cup of tea, and join me for a chinwag. I've tied my hair back in a bow. Blue ribbon with a bit of glitter. I thought it was a bit of a Dandini affair, you know, Prince Charming, like pantomimes of yore, which puts one in mind of Harry Mountbatten Windsor, doesn't it? Or as he insists on calling himself, Prince Harry, with the publishing of Spare. Spare. One shouldn't laugh, should one? Poor spare old Henry. Spare him a thought, shall we? Many of you have disparaged the title of this book, and I had one of you commenting saying, what is he thinking of? He sounds like a complete idiot. And respectfully, I must disagree. My dears, it is an absolute work of genius, I think. I wish I'd come up with that title myself. I think I would have, if I'd have put any real thought into it. Spare. It is absolutely perfect. It is full of pathos. You see, for the casual observer who might have passed it by saying, oh, the story of my life, Harry, Wales, you know. It's got emotion. It's got pathos. The story is there. He's setting it down, throwing down the gauntlet. Congratulations to Random Penguins, because if Harry didn't name it himself, then someone's doing a very good job there. A very good job. And the cover work seems to have been tried and tested, because the ghostwriter, J.R. Bellringer, or whatever he's called, Mo Ringer, J.R. Ewing, J.R. Hartley, J.R., his last tome, or one of his previous tomes, Andre Agassi, wasn't it? And it looked so familiar. The cover was almost identical in tone and style, you know, general feeling, general atmosphere. And a one-word title there too. It was Open. Spare, Open. So, yes, no one was really expecting that, were they? And I like it when someone pulls something out of the bag. I will say, as I've always said, I refuse to criticise this book until it is published and until we've read it. He's not the first royal to merch or capitalise. Many of the members of the family that we know and love and don't disapprove of have done so. From Peter Phillips to Fergie, many of them. But, as you've pointed out to me many times, none of them, to my mind, disparaged the Queen, her reign, the family, the Commonwealth, yada, 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 yada. We could go on, couldn't we? Only one twosome did that. And we all know where they live. It begins in Monty and ends in Ceto. That's a clue. But the money's going to be coming in. When I said months ago this is going to sell like hotcakes, I was rebuked. Some people just can't handle it. It's going to sell like hotcakes. And in fact, the fact it's been delayed might only behoove it, because it's not going to be fighting and jostling with Michelle Obama and all the other Christmas releases, is it? It's going to be there when people want something fresh in the new year and they've got book tokens to spend from Christmas and they think, oh, 28 quid for a hardcover? Well, that's a lot of money. But Aunt Joycey just gave me some in my Christmas stocking, so okay, I'll treat myself. By the way, it's also going for £14, I've seen over here. You can get a discounted version of it here and there. Will I be buying a copy? Of course I will. I might return it to get my money back. But I will certainly be buying. I'm looking forward to it because it will be well written, because it's not actually penned by Harry. And, you know, like you, I will be aware that it is going to wring out the fiction and the fantasy and the drama and Harry's truth. You know, I can acquiesce and say there will be some truth in there, but even they're calling it Harry's truth, or his people are calling it his truth. Now, I want to share with you that I did attend a literary event this week. It was nothing grand, it was nothing over the top, it was a cosy affair. With many present from the publishing world, including a couple of Random Penguins. And they chirped. What is it that penguins do? I don't know. Do they chirp? Do they tweet? Do they Twitter? Bark? They chirped in my ear. And, you know, just little whispers, gossipy whispers here and there. Chums of chums and chums of chums. Hear these things. The big thing they say is actually quite sad. It's actually quite sad because, along with the normal grief and devastation that went along with the Queen's death, for Harry personally, what I am told is that it was particularly a harsh blow to him, because one of his great wishes, and one of the things that along with the money and the merching, made him want to do this is because he knew that the Queen herself would have devoted time to sit down with his tome and read it from cover to cover and hear his story through JR. And he was devastated to learn that she would not have that chance because she kicked the bucket. She kicked the bucket too early. He wasn't planning on that. Even though she was in a fragile state, just as close members of the family, just as William said to the crowds, we really hoped she was going to go, we knew she was getting on, but we really hoped she'd go on and on and on. She was not at death's door in those final weeks. She could have gone on quite a while. Even that last weekend, it was commented on how vital she still was. And Harry really didn't think that the book would outlast her or outlive her. And I hear that he's taken it particularly hard because he wanted that validation, that approval from his commander-in-chief. The other whisper that I retrieved at this gathering, and you can take it with a pinch of salt, I don't know if I'm inclined to believe it, but this is what I was told, was that, yes, you read in the newspapers that the family have not been privy to any manuscript, they don't know what's going on, and that's half the trouble because they don't know what's to emerge. I was told that the Queen has been privy to things that the rest of the family have not. Now, I don't know if that means certain things were run past her, a synopsis, scenarios, where they checked if something was all right. I am told that certain items were brought to her attention with regards to the book. Make of that what you will. And I do believe that though these are things that he might have brought to the Queen's attention, they are things that he wouldn't bother bringing to Papa's attention. You think, no, suck it up, suck it up. The Queen was a different story. And we get further insight into the flavour of the book with the titles overseas, because it's been translated into many languages, and the subtitled heading in various territories ranges from In the Shadows in Spain, so Spare in the Shadows, then Leftover and Reserve. So that is very much the theme of the book and very much chimes with everything I've said, and I'm sure many other people, that he's always felt second best to Big Willie. And while I commend him for seemingly coming forth and admitting this, I am not expecting him to take any responsibility for his immaturity in accepting that role as the Dandini to Prince Charming, as the Little has to Big Willie. I don't think we're going to see any acceptance or regret, but I could be very wrong. It could be a very confessional tone. Perhaps he will bow down and apologise for the tawdry cabaret he and his wife have provided us with over the last couple of years. Do you think that's likely? We shall see. Wasn't it heartwarming to see the first of the birthday cards going out from the King and his consort to celebrate the 100th birthday of Ruth Park Pearson? Marvellous, isn't she, for 100? Marvellous. A veteran who served in the Wrens, and thousands of cards, I think, have gone out already. You know, the Queen sent out over 1 million during her reign to 100-year-olds, 105-year-olds, those celebrating various anniversaries. 1.3 million cards were sent on her behalf to her subjects. Isn't it lovely? A lovely thing for the monarch to do. Of course, in the old days, in 1917, when the whole arrangement was set off by King George V, he would send these greetings by telegram on birthdays and anniversaries to his subjects. But back then, to get to 100 was quite a feat, quite a feat. Things have changed a lot, haven't they, in 105 years. I should give a mention, shouldn't I, to the appointment of Rishi Sunak, ushered in by Johnny Thompson. I think he's Lieutenant Colonel now, isn't he? So already, in such a short time during his reign, King Charles has had 2 prime ministers, and isn't it curious? He would have had 3. He would have already had 3 under his belt had the Queen died a couple of days sooner, because Truss was only 2 days in when she left this earthly realm. So he's an old hat at it now, my dear, greeting and inviting his prime ministers, and we have Rishi Sunak, who I never liked. I've told you before, I never particularly liked. Didn't hate, but never liked his style. Too slick. He's grown on me a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of his policies. I, as you know, loved Kemi Badenoch, although I sense that she's not quite ready to lead the country. I've grown more comfortable with the idea of Rishi Sunak because he makes one feel that a grown-up is in charge. And that slickness that I don't like might have its benefits, I have to see that. He's tenacious, and when somebody is leading your country, tenacity is good. What I've always loathed about him is the way that he sounds so contrived when he's doing a speech, when he's reading anything from an autocue or a teleprompter. I can't watch. It makes my ears itch. It's just awful. So contrived, so trained, so honed. When he's off script, he's much better. Prime Minister's questions, to the point. He answers the questions. There's not too much subterfuge. Like it began to be, like it always was with Boris Johnson. He just wouldn't answer a bloody question. He wouldn't answer a question properly. It was and he thought he had to try and please everyone by pleasing no one. And he thought he was being clever doing that. Well, you weren't clever, were you? He thought he had it in the bag and would go on and on and on. And you never know, he might return when they need a good campaigner to win a general election. But he wasn't so clever because people just weren't buying what he was trying to sell. And I was one of them. I did not want him to have a second chance. I did not. So I am pleased that out of the remaining candidates, Mr. Sunak is there, and much has been made of the fact that he is our first Prime Minister of colour. And I would like to say that all those countries looking on who have been told that Old Blighty is such a racist, bigoted place, including Meghan and Harry. You know, this is our Conservative Party, with a Prime Minister invited by the King, a Prime Minister of Indian heritage. And that's coming after 3 female Prime Ministers, beginning in the 70s. Not many countries have achieved that going back that far. And the opposition, not that I approve of checklists and checkboxes, but a lot of the opposition do go in for that kind of thing. Well, they're the side that's never had anything other than a white male as leader. So what are they complaining about? You see, the Conservatives just quietly got on with it, quietly got on with nurturing and fostering talent in a meritocracy. The likes of Rishi Sunak and Kemi Badenoch and dozens of others coming through, climbing the ladder naturally, getting there on talent and talent alone. So I'm optimistic about the fact that he can at least bring a sense of maturity and competence to the current arrangement and hopefully restore some harmony back to our government, because it is sorely needed. And maybe, just maybe, even though he was not the pick of my favourites, maybe he is the man for the job. And sometimes it's good to be challenged in one's perception. So we'll see. Now, some of you have asked about old Mickey Tindall, and I'm conscious here, you know, I have some surprising viewers that I'm aware of. Surprising viewers. So before I say this, let me caveat it with saying, we love you, Mickey. We love you, Mickey. Mike Tindall is the husband of Zara, for those who don't know. We love you, but, you know, I must criticise something. And, you know, he's going to be partaking in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which is a sort of trashy TV show, a reality show. It was fun once upon a time. It's been going for so many years now, though. I mean, I haven't watched it for a very long time. And I like reality shows. I'm excited about Big Brother coming back, actually. I'm a Celeb, not so much. They all eat bugs, this kind of thing, go through all kinds of humiliating tasks. But he's going to do that. How do I feel about that? I don't like it. I don't like it. Yes, I'm old-fashioned. I just don't like it. And I'm well aware that he's not the only royal to take part in that kind of thing. There was once a series decades ago called It's a Knockout, organised by Prince Edward, which went on. He's not the only one. But the fact that it has occurred immediately after the Queen's death makes me think that he knows it's not the most royal thing in the world to do, unless it was all negotiated beforehand. I don't know. But the timing of it is interesting, especially because there is also an advertisement for Domino's Pizza that he has got involved with. And that's when I began to feel really rather uncomfortable with it. If he wants to start, you know, I do bear in mind he is not a working royal. He's got a career of his own, which was never based on royalty. He's a sporting star. But as a sporting star, surely he could be advertising something a bit more classy. I don't know, Rolex watches, luggage, accessories, some kind of thing. But Domino's Pizza, of all things. You know, the trouble is this kind of thing opens the floodgates. You know, do you want the Yorkie girls trying to flog things next? Pizza Express invoking. Daddy used to shop here. Daddy used to buy his pizza here. He took us here for birthday parties. Yoda, when's it going to stop? When's it going to stop? It just doesn't fly with me. I know it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's where it leads to that I worry about. It cheapens things because you associate people with the brands that they advertise, don't you? And he says in this advert, there's a line he comes out with. You know me, mate, he says. Friends in high places. So he's obviously referring in this scripted piece to his association with the royal family and his wife, who was 20th in line to the throne. And I don't think that's cool. I just don't think that's cool. I know that he will be very well liked. You know, he's such a stand-up chap. And he'll go down very well. But that ain't my point. It's the temptations of the modern world, isn't it, my dears? The temptations of the modern world. And those who are tempted are the Montecitans. And one of those Montecitans released another episode of her Archetypes podcast last week. And I was going to do a separate broadcast about that. But it was so boring. Upending the angry black woman myth. I'm just going to level with you. I don't care. I'm so bored with talking about race and race relations. And I don't care who knows it. I would be happy if I never discussed it again for the rest of my life. And I'm told in the comments every week from people of colour and black people that they couldn't agree with me more. All this constant chatter, this constant noise has done nothing but take us back decades. And things are a different scenario here in the kingdom to in the States. I'm not going to speak on the States and whether or not conversations need to be had. From what I hear, they did. It is different here in the kingdom. There was never segregation. There was racism for sure. As societies evolved and changed and mixed, of course, there was prejudice and bigotry. No one's denying that. No one in the past has prevented any conversation about that. There was always conversation, there was always dialogue, there was always progress. Marvellous progress, to the point where all our beloveds, for most of us in the kingdom, include those of all colours that you could possibly imagine, all colours, creeds, this, that and the eighth. You know, everyone all together in this wonderful hot pot. But in the past few years, since all this mischief abroad and all this talking about black lives versus white lives, white privilege, systemic racism, all these theories that have appeared on our shores. You know, I'm not going to speak for other shores, but they've ruined these ones because they've brought in a sensitivity to the issue that was unnecessary. We'd worked past so many of those issues and resurfacing them and holding them up to a microscope in the way that it is done now, constantly, relentlessly, on every platform, every form of media, is damaging. And it's not helpful, and it's not progressive. And I am sick to death of it. I never, ever want to have another discussion about race again in my life. And if that means makes me an ignoramus, so be it. As usual, it was like a girl gang gushing all over each other. It seemed to be a vehicle to enable Meghan to let us know that she is, 43%? Did you know I'm 43% Nigerian? So now you all know exactly how black she is. Whoopie-doo! 43% Nigerian, 57% narcissist. Anyway, that's quite enough nonsense on stilts. If you'd like to hang around with me for a few more minutes, then it's time for Tip Jar Corner. Welcome to Tip Jar Corner, and for those of you that haven't been here before, this is where I display various trinkets and jewels and gemmies and second-hand books, things from the local charity shop, which I'll often return and recycle and redonate, and the local vintage fair, my friend Secondhand Susie, who is becoming great at sourcing me some really lovely finds here, there and everywhere, and a lot of my fruits. My viewers find it rather tantalising to see what I've come up with, And I'm always looking out for things that I think will tickle the viewers and, you know, to place around the frame. You know, one thing I've noticed that my viewers really picked up on is the velvet blazers that I've been wearing and jackets. So I've got another one on today, and I've been keeping my eye out for lots of various nice lush colours for you, because the velvet jackets have gone down very well over the last few months. Actually, I will confess to you, this is the second time that I've done this broadcast today. I spent a long time doing one earlier in the day, and I wore orange velvet, a new orange number, and it's a lovely orange, but the way that I lit it and the way that I styled it, I wasn't happy with. I thought it looked absolutely awful. I just couldn't bear looking at it. The orange will probably make a return, but I scrapped it. I scrapped the whole thing and started again from scratch. So, yeah. That's devotion for you, my dears, but I like to do my best for you. But it turned out well, actually, because I love the way that this blue and white look is coming across, with the beads and the pearls, a bit of shimmer here, there and everywhere, and this peacock brooch, which I'll show you in a moment. Actually, this blue, which is probably a lighter blue in the flesh than it looks on the screen. I remember when I was a child, I had a book of Cinderella, and she had a dress in this colour blue, which I like, and also the Prince Charming had a matching look, quite like this, actually. Today it's what inspired me to put a bow in my hair, because he had a black bow in his pulled back ponytail. Because the men dressed up so fancy in times gone past, didn't they? So beautifully. You know, sometimes I'll be disparaged by the odd viewer. Very rarely, says, what do you like? Why would you dress like that? And you think, how unimaginative. Just because the past century men have dressed quite boring in the Western world compared to the ladies. It hasn't always been that way, and it's certainly not that way in the world of the animal species. Ask Mr. Peacock here. But here is a nice blue necklace that I found, and that was only £3.50. I like the various shapes of the stones here, and I love the way that it falls down in droplets, and those pink ostrich feathers, aren't they gorgeous? I actually found them at a charity shop for £3, and I quickly grabbed them up because they're quite expensive, nice ostrich feathers, you know, and they were large, and there were quite a few of them. I had them in the background of the previous video, or the one before, and I really liked them. And I looked for some more online in different colours, and I found some that were gold, and I thought, oh, that'd be fabulous. Ordered them because they looked huge, and when they arrived, well, you can see them on the bookcase behind me, my dear, over there. They were tiny little things. In the photographs, they looked huge, and silly me, I didn't look at their measurements. I will find some more, but I have learned that they're quite expensive things. But anyway, I was pleased to find those ostrich feathers, and many of you admired the new lamp here at the side, and it seems to fit in quite well, doesn't it? I will mix it up from time to time, season to season, because I did like the old lamp there as well. It provided a certain softness, but this is quite nice for this time of year, I feel. And the book there is Queen Victoria's Children by Daphne Bennett, £1.50. I'm not recommending any of these books, by the way. I haven't read them yet. They're just things that I picked up because they were going cheap. And my, she was busy, wasn't she? Oh, Vicky. She was busy. No wonder she grieved Albert for so long and so hard, because they got jiggy with it, didn't they? In the time that they had together, she popped him out. Like a lady boy in Bangkok with a ping pong ball. She popped him out. One after the other. Well, they did in those days, didn't they? Because most people died in infancy. So they had to kind of up the tally count, didn't they? But, yes, you can understand why she missed him. We know what she missed. Not just his good nature and kindness and company and all of those things, which of course she missed, but, you know, we have to come to terms with the fact that she also must have desperately missed his cock. Here is a caddy of brooches, and I absolutely fell in love with this bright blue vintage piece. An array of gorgeous blues and violets on a wheel. And I also acquired some more of those large antique-style brooches. Really nice size, and I wanted one in green, an emerald affair, and also a stunning one rendered in sapphire. I've no idea why I picked up this gold wire necklace. It's quite hideous, but it was very cheap at £2.50. No idea, but you know, I might put it to some good use here or there. And I've displayed it on my mohair tartan blankie. Wouldn't that be fabulous with King Cosy Socks? Ah, King Cosy Socks, of course. Welcome to Aberdeen, welcome to Scotland, my dear. This is King Cosy Socks. I think that would be wonderful. Don't you? Over his lap? Then Camilla could hop on. Oh, King Cosy Socks. I think that would suit him. And I adored this candied gem, rainbow-coloured wreath. I just wish that it was 3 times the size. But isn't that always the way, my ladies? Always the way. I wish it was larger, but I just love the colours. A kaleidoscopic affair in a pretty design with a smattering of diamonds. I've stopped acquiring so many rings because I've already got large ones in most colours and they seem to look the best over the lens. So I'm calming down on them, although there are a few colours that I'm still looking out for. I need to get a very large pink one, actually. I've got small, but I need large. But I saw these one, I couldn't resist because they were going so cheap. And I really liked this shiny yellow one. I thought it was very pretty. And also I liked this delicate 2-stone blue affair. And actually it put me in mind of some of the engagement rings of the royal family. I think it was Princess Anne that had a similar design, although not quite so sparkly as mine. This peacock brooch that you see with the swishy tail. So boastful, aren't they? Such a show-off. And it's a study in purples, pearls, golds and blues. A whimsical find here. You know, sometimes I'll pick up some beads if they make me smile, and these did, and I think it was just the chunky, sliced look of the beads in water lilacs, rainy mauves, glistening purples. And I'm setting it off here with this monochrome vintage tunic coat that I've worn for you recently with tie belting. It's by a brand called Roman Originals. And no, that doesn't mean that it was made in Italy, I'm afraid. I looked it up and it's a company from the 1950s based in Birmingham. So not quite as exotic as Italy. This book is The Elements of Style, which I'm curious to read, and it was only £2. Very good for this hardback edition by Stephen Calloway. And isn't this orange pendant a dream? Orangey gold, topaz affair, £3.50, with gold sunbeams and a halo of citrine spheres, and little spikes of jet and diamond at the bottom. Thank you very much for joining me, and thanks once again to anybody who sent me a tip for a cup of coffee, a slice of cake or a trinket. You're very kind. Also, thanks to you for watching, for leaving lovely juicy comments, and simply for your company. I appreciate it, and I'll be back when I'm back. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. If you're partying for Halloween, I wish you a spooky time, and I will see you in the next broadcast. Toodle pip.